Can you take me through what the back of your shirt says?
Sure. Is it what's the bleep policy on your?
I don't know.
Podcast?
That's Pete. We'll find out.
Yeah. Okay.
He knows. He knows the bleep policy.
So it says for advisors who give a shit.
Zach, I've known you for years, and I'm just now this morning learning you're a Knicks fan. Are you a diehard Knicks fan?
I am. I'm embarrassed to say a fair weather fan.
Okay, well that's good. That's
so
better, yeah.
Yes, grew up watching, but life goes on. Watch them once in a while, but of course, watching every game at this point.
Yeah, well,
in the
they're
finals.
they're in the finals, and they, sadly for me, we're in Boca Raton at Wealth Management Edge,
Yes,
where everyone here is from the East Coast.
of
it
course.
seems.
Yes.
And I wore my Spurs shirt last night.
Yeah.
Was told you may want to leave if the Spurs win because there was a couple advisors who were looking to fight.
Yeah.
It's like, wow, that's crazy.
It's
That's
insane.
not Spurs culture. I'd like to think we're a classy fan base, but maybe a lot of Knicks are too. But there's a lot of New Yorkers.
It's
a lot of
depressing seeing the clips of the Spurs fans leaving MSG, getting attacked. So you thought that was going to happen to you here in Boca?
Oh, it'd be a story. It's lore.
Yeah.
Whatever happens, happens.
Yeah.
But I probably would have deserved it anyway. No, I was so quiet. I was so well behaved.
Yeah.
Just watching, and I'm like, wow.
It's the
folks.
jersey.
Yeah.
That speaks volumes.
Yeah.
That's the key.
The Spurs were up by 30. They lost.
Yeah.
That is what it is. And everyone here today looks so tired.
Yes.
because
Doing a podcast and I've partially lost my voice screaming at the TV from last night.
yeah,
So
we're
it's
going to have a
perfect timing.
great deep radio voice.
Yeah.
Both of us. Yeah, it's just that's how it's going to go.
Yeah.
And we're the last day of a conference. So you've been
Exactly.
talking this whole
Exactly.
time. You got a booth.
The voice was gone already. Then you yell at the TV for 3 hours. So
Yeah.
it's perfect.
Yeah. So running a business, I will say, we both started our businesses in 2020. I went all in 2023, though. You went in sooner than I did.
Yeah.
Do you empathize with those Knicks of just sometimes it just feels like it's down and out? It's just hopeless. And that's what I love about this show, the Biztape, and talking to other founders, hearing their stories. It's so relatable, at least for me, to see that team where it's like, it's just hopeless. You have to just,
Yeah.
I don't know what you have to channel, but something in the bottom of your gut where you're like, it's going to go down, but I'm just all in on this thing that it doesn't matter.
Yeah.
I'm going to push through.
They talk about always being desperate. The Knicks, right? Like every post-game interview is, how did you pull this off? And we just have to behave desperately.
Yeah.
It's an interesting way to frame it. I think that's sort of how I feel. It's like,
Yeah.
I'm desperate to get this done. So it's an interesting way to talk about it.
Well, one of our family friends who we had on the podcast, Phil Weber, he was a coach for the Miami Heat, and he's now got this book out, and he says, everyone talks about you can lead a horse to water, but how do you make him drink? He says, well, my question is, how do you make him thirsty? And you see that Knicks, you're like, okay, like what was their motivating factor? Because I saw OKC give up multiple times with that kind of lead, and the Knicks just held on. And it's the second time they did it against the Cavs. So for you, you've done this business for about 6 years now. Congrats. You're in the minority. Very few make it past 5 years.
Yeah, for sure.
What makes you thirsty? Why are you doing this thing?
Yeah. Desperation. I think it is. I was just talking to somebody about it. It's sort of an obvious answer, but you have to be sort of driven to what you're trying to achieve in the outcome. Right?
Mhm.
What are you actually trying to change? And do you care? And I care a lot about the industry. I care a lot about advisors in particular. My dad's an advisor. I sort of got to grow up in the business, as we've talked about before. And I'm desperate to make sure that this industry exists for many, many years beyond now. And I think there's so many things that advisors are dealing with as an industry. Could talk about a million things in that regard. Now there's AI to contend with. And what is that going to mean for advisors?
Yeah.
But yeah, I'm desperate to make sure that, we help advisors continue to succeed.
Yep.
So every day you wake up, to your point, as a business owner trying to build something. One morning it's like, this thing's going to collapse today. And then and then an hour later, it's like, this is clearly going to be a massive, massive success. And then an hour later it shifts back. But yeah, that sort of desperation to keep going and push beyond that and ride that roller coaster, I guess.
Well, I don't think I've ever told you this, but we met about, I think 5 years ago now. And when we met, I thought out the gate you were already a massive success. I was misinformed. When we met, just for the audience to know, go check out an episode of the Framework podcast with Jamie Hopkins, where you're on with this guy named Adrian Grenier.
Yes.
Now, I had never watched The Devil Wears Prada. I'd never seen any of the shows he was in, and so I didn't know who he was. So when we bumped into you, I thought 100% you were Adrian Grenier. And the more you were talking about advisors, the more I was like, this guy was not meant to be an actor. He knows way too much about this industry. And then this
you've
guy
never told me that.
And then he comes up and he's got his hands are all dirty. He's like, looks like he literally looks like he's your gardener. I thought he was your gardener and it was your home because we met at his house to film the podcast.
Yeah.
So he walks up and you're talking to him and I'm like, well, when's the gardener going to head out so we can do that? I'm at this point a production person. Like, when is he going to leave so we can get this show going with Adrian? And then he sat down and it's like, why is the gardener in the shot? And
I also remember people saying we're basically I remember in that episode, he and I are wearing essentially the same outfit. So I don't blame you for being a little bit confused.
And then because of that, when you did sit down, I 100% thought you were related. I'm like, okay, there's something else here.
Yeah.
And then, Brian Money, shout out to B Money.
Yeah, Brian.
Said, no, this is Zach Conway. And I'm like, who's Zach Conway?
Yeah.
It's like the guy that knows Adrian. Yeah, he's like the guy that knows Adrian. I'm like, that was the foundation. Like, that's how I knew he was like the guy that knows Adrian. Now it's a lot more than that. So
yeah,
take me through a more fluid backstory of Seeds.
Yeah.
Your time in the industry. You were an advisor. Yeah.
Yep.
You were going down that road. Why do you have a love for it? But why did you leave that position?
Yeah. It's like I said, watching my dad do it for as long as I've been alive, and then sort of, being in the business in summers and sort of watching firsthand why it was important to him and what motivated him as an advisor, which was all about really deep human connection ultimately, and having an understanding of families and their issues and everything that comes with money and the complexity of money and all those conversations. And it was interesting. I made a very conscious effort to not join the business, as much as I sort of appreciated what he was doing and how interesting it seemed, and wanted to go on my own path, and went into the corporate world for a little while. And I always sort of tell the story of I had strong opinions about how where I was working should change things for the better. And as a post-grad, they rightfully could care less about what my opinions were to make improvements in that very large company. But being an entrepreneur is therefore sort of what got me on that path to ultimately join him. The fact that I could sort of make changes in the business that would further improve what I saw was so valuable to him, in that human connection and those conversations and the value he could provide those families. So that combination, right? Being able to kind of control your destiny and build something, and be a business owner, and then seeing what that impact was with those human people in the room and how much they appreciated what he did. So I joined him, and then, sort of jump cut to a few years later, starting a separate company to try to double down on that same idea, right? That as much as I could tell that people valued him for his ability to deeply understand and connect understanding to solutions, the investment management part of what we do as advisors felt really not human. And it's sort of ironic or counterintuitive, because it's so much of what we're doing for people is making sure that their money's invested the right way. And it was just really disconnected from how they felt about what that meant and how to control their investing sort of experience. And there wasn't a technology that I saw in the industry that was really going to help with that. And so said, hey, going to continue to sort of help you build this thing, but we need to. I walked into his office and was like, hey, unfortunately, I'm also going to start this other company in parallel. And so I've been doing that for about 5 years.
Can you take me through what the back of your shirt says?
Sure. Is it what's the bleep policy on your?
I don't know. That's Pete. We'll find out.
Yeah. Okay.
He knows the bleep policy.
So it says for advisors who give a shit.
Okay.
That's
Take me through that.
Sure. It's the human stuff.
Uh-huh.
And storytelling specifically and what we're doing at Seeds around investment management.
Mhm.
And again, back to sort of what I saw with him was deep understanding, connecting that to solutions. But then when you got to the investment conversation specifically, the story was more about us. It was, here are our models. Here's how many CFAs we have.
Yeah.
Here's how we think about the markets and the economy and how we're going to manage the money because we're so smart. Had nothing to do with how they thought about investing. What is that process and experience? What do they want to get out of it? How do they want to shape what their actual sort of tangible portfolio is and what's in it and what they own? And we think that's important because that is literally why they're there, right? Is for you to understand those things and then sort of shape the story overall, the entire sort of financial planning experience. But for us in particular, that investment management part of financial planning. So that's who Seeds is for advisors who give a shit to actually better understand who those investors are and how they think and what's important to them.
Mm-hmm.
We also think it's good for business. If you do that, then you can sort of have this more compelling story around investing, and that's going to lead to growth. That's what people want.
What percentage of advisors that are out there? There's like, what, 300,000 financial independent RIAs?
Yeah.
What percentage of them do you think actually care?
I think a lot. I think a majority. I think
So where's the disconnect?
the lack of a platform, us not existing 5 years ago. I think it really is, again, my dad knows, advisors know, we all know the most valuable thing and the perception of value comes from, I'm going to deeply understand these people in my office or on a Zoom call and translate that into solutions and how to navigate trade-offs and different decisions across their financial journey. The second, though, you actually ask the deeper questions, so in investment management in particular, you need to do something about the answers. So for example, if I ask, hey, if you actually could shape more specifically what you own down to the ticker level, if you're driven by something like values and not wanting to own certain companies or wanting to own certain companies in the context of still making sure your portfolio is built for your goals, is that something that would be meaningful to you? It is absurd that that is not a default standard assessment and conversation with everybody the moment you start to talk about their invested money. But the reason we don't do it is if you ask, then you need to translate it into an answer. You need to have the portfolio be screened for certain companies or certain companies included.
Yeah.
And then you can just, the circles go out from there. If you understand more things about the experience they want to have and how they talk about the portfolio, if you ask about, more nuanced tax aspects of what's going on with their financial situation, anything you further understand about them, which is what they want, and advisors know that that's what they want, you then have to do something about what the answers are. So again, having a system in place to translate that into portfolio outcomes, the trading that would need to happen as a result of that understanding and so on. So that's essentially what Seeds does.
And I mean, the lesson in this doesn't just apply to financial services. If you're in any sort of consulting position and you don't understand, I think the key thing that I take out of just Seeds in general is you don't really understand why they're here.
Right.
What is it they're looking for? Could you share with me a story of yours where I think it was a woman who was a prospect?
Sure.
I don't think you won that bid. She felt very understood.
Yeah.
Do you know which story I'm talking about?
I do. Yeah.
Okay.
It is, I would say, if there's a specific origin story, it is this story. So, I was trying to figure out how do we actually start to build a next gen customer base. And next gen, even at that point, was, we're talking 40 plus year olds, not Gen Z, with an older client base. And so let's start to engage the children of our existing clients and take them through our full process, including the investment management process, which was essentially a very, very light assessment a risk tolerance questionnaire. It's a very common approach to sort of doing discovery around the portfolio.
Mm-hmm.
We did that. We put together our models, ETF-based models, put them in a 20-page PDF proposal with all these different metrics and so on, and put it in front of her on the conference room table and walked her through sort of our talk track. Here's how we build portfolios. This is the team. This is how we think about the economy. And here's all these metrics. Let us tell you what they all mean. And she very graciously took the PDF, nodded her head, went back home. And then I essentially, a couple days later, got an email describing how strange it was to have gone through that experience, having known that we, through her parents, were really good at the deep understanding stuff.
Yep.
And she was essentially saying, where was that? Why didn't I get that? And her tangible thing that she wanted to be understood was never in a million years would she put her money into these particular ETFs because they owned companies she was morally opposed to putting her money behind. And that was a light bulb moment of how absurd is it, how egotistical of us to presume that this human person is just going to go on this ride of here's how we manage money. Therefore, that's how your money will be managed. And for us to not know that about her was sort of shocking and so obvious in hindsight. And that insight just sort of continued on, right? It wasn't just we need to know about values. It's just we need to know how people think about investing more broadly. And that's, sort of set the train off from there.
So the light bulb moment happens.
Yes.
You are able to identify a problem. You have an idea for a solution. This was about 6 years ago, and it's all been smooth sailing since. There's been no bumps. It's been perfect, and now y'all are killing it. Besides having Kelsey, that's the one hiccup you've had in this whole process. Just kidding, Kelsey. Don't come after me. Yeah. Okay. What has been the one, if all the lessons you've had in this time, what's been the one thing that you'd say you reflect on the most, your one key learning, the one moment that changed everything? A lot of businesses have that within the first few years. You're on year 6. Do you have a moment like that was a really defining moment for Seeds?
I think it's sort of the opposite of a defining moment. It's literally every moment. It's looking back at how little, as much as that insight, that original insight has been the through line of the sort of vision of the business from day one, how little I knew about literally everything and how we were going to need to build the business. So it's probably not the answer you're looking for, but it is really been about constant iteration, constant learning. The thing I thought was right yesterday may not be right tomorrow. And in all areas, I think, I have an entrepreneurial drive. I think I'm pretty good at building things in general. I'm sort of naturally decent at that. But how do you build a team? How do you hire? How do you think about sales? How do you, I've never built a product life cycle of, Seed started with me drawing literally pencil and paper, the interface of the platform. So looking back at that and now, dozens of people working on from a product and engineering standpoint. And I knew nothing about how to do that well from day one. So maybe not the answer you were looking for. No specific moment. It's all the moments. Every
there's
day.
A lot of them. No, I love that. I tell people who are thinking about starting a business is if you ever want to know what areas you suck at life, start a business.
Yeah, exactly.
I was really decent at sales and marketing before starting Pod Pony. I thought I could do this. Like this won't be too difficult. Man, there's so many things that you're just like, wow, I need to outsource this, and you hire for this. And turns out I'm terrible at hiring too. Oh my goodness. Like how is it? So it's this, some things you outsource, some things you work on. What's been the one biggest thing for you? You've learned, okay, I'm good at building things, but I'm really bad at this. I need help. What was that area you really realized you needed to lean on somebody else for?
I think, again, maybe not, no specific answer. It's literally everything. I think that has been the learning. And I need to make sure I'm applying where I do think I'm more capable. So it is in sort of the product side of the business. It's in sales,
Mm-hmm.
but I still ultimately know nothing, even in those areas. And so the hardest thing has been what you just said, understanding how to build a team in all aspects, right? From, what does this organizationally need to look like for us to be successful across sales and marketing and, again, product and engineering, all pieces of the business.
Yeah.
How to hire, how to fire, manage in between. I think what's interesting too, it's like, I feel like we forget, and why I think so much empathy for advisors is they're trying to do all those things and be practitioners, right?
Yeah.
And go do the thing in the room with these human people, which is so valuable. But they also, as an independent firm, you need to do all the things that we're trying to do, in building a business as well.
Yeah. Well, you do have a fantastic team, a growing team. When you see yourself, you see Kelsey at all these events. You're two very different people, but just obviously very effective. It's tough for me because I never give you this much praise, but I'm on a podcast, so people have to know I actually do like you.
That's very nice.
But yeah,
We
you're
like
like,
you too.
you're like, wow, he's never said this many nice things. I'm like, it's being recorded, so it's out there.
It's on the
Afterwards, it's
record.
like, wow, he's never been nice to me. No, it's there's proof here.
It's because I'm a Knicks fan.
Okay, well there it goes. I tried. I'm not liable for anything else, audience, at this point. All right, so you talking about all the pivoting, all the changing, all the adapting. About a year and a half ago, is it, that you had a major rebrand from Seeds Investor to Seeds, from green to charcoal, to bright to earthy tones.
Yeah.
What spurned this idea to say we need to change our visual identity and how we're perceived on the market?
Yeah, I'll be hopefully very honest about it. I think there was an over assumption that our product focus was specifically around values-based investing and the direct indexing available to do sort of a values-based investing approach, which is part of what it is, right? Again, to the example and sort of the origin story, that was the tangible thing that we needed to know from that particular person. But it was really about all these other aspects of how they think and what's important. It was also the operational aspects of what we do. The thing that I think people really misunderstood is that, we're building a managed accounts platform with, UMA capabilities, things like automated trading, tax loss harvesting, tax transitions, different model structures, direct indexing components, all of these things to be both this experience layer that we've talked about and this operational layer so that advisors, again, can do really well on that experience layer and deepen the relationship with the client, but also not worry about all these operational pain points, which we experience in our business as advisors. And so people didn't see that. And I think, and again, it goes back to iteration. We'll probably change it again, fairly soon. And it's just a constant, what do we hear the market say? What do we think is not being interpreted correctly? Adapt it, do it again, do it again.
One of the key lessons I've learned in the last year was if you can't clearly articulate your mission, what's your purpose as a business, which in my own head I knew. I thought my whole team was aligned on that. You're not all going to be aligned, and it's going to be tough, right?
For sure.
There's you have to learn a lot of other lessons because people aren't aligned.
Yep.
If you could look back in 30 years from now, 40 years from now at Seeds, what's the mission and what does success look like?
It goes back to making sure that people really deeply value what they get out of their advisor experience. We're in a moment right now where there's lots of chatter about AI disruption and taking advisors out of that seat and people being able to sort of go a direct to consumer route in financial advice. But all the data still says, and I think will continue to say, people want this. They want the human interface to, because we're hardwired for it, for them to know that I understand what's important to you, how you're thinking, what you want your 30-year timeline to look like. But I need the systems behind me that if you were to go to the Robo platform and have access to these particular solutions from an investment management standpoint, that you can at least get the same through me as the human interface, and make sure that, again, 30 years from now, that hasn't been replaced. And I do think that we need to do a lot as an industry, which we've talked about, but making sure that advisors can spend as much time focused on deep understanding, connection, and offloading any sort of behind the scenes operational strain that takes them out of that moment.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, one question we ask everyone who comes on, and you were on one of our other podcasts, so you got this before, so we'll see if it's the same answer. I don't remember what it was.
Yeah, geez, I probably won't remember.
Well, last time you were just coming off the beach. I think you were like just a little too much sun. Your hair was everywhere that day.
Okay.
Did really well virally.
I do remember, yes.
Yeah, so I don't know. I mean, you might have been delirious when you gave the answer. I have no idea. All right, but
I'm sure.
Today, 2026, if you had to look at your life, when it's all said and done, again, we're going to stay on this whole forward-thinking thought for a second, and let's say your life's made up onto a cassette, and there's a song for every area of your life, and you got to pick the song that you would hope would best define your career, all the work you did, the impact it had. What song would you go with?
That is impossible. Do you remember what I said last time?
No, I was also sun-kissed and delirious, and that event was on the beach in Miami, and there was so much sun. It was so sweaty.
Yeah.
You couldn't get in the water or anything. You're at a conference, and I'm
going to say I'm going to come back with the specific song, but it would be a Taylor Swift song.
You know what? I do think you said that. I must have said that. I hate that answer. This is the first time I've ever said that on this show. I hate that answer. I hate Taylor Swift so much.
Should we stay on for another 20 minutes and debate this?
Listen, no, she sucks. Here's why.
What?
I'm a Broncos fan, and she's there every time the Chiefs get a touchdown.
You're one of those.
And the Spurs last night, every time the Knicks did something good, there she is. Yeah. So I correlate her with my team's losing.
All right. I see. I see.
I have nothing to say on the music. I've never been to a show. She is always there.
You missed out. You missed out on the Eras tour.
Like Taylor and I, we are not eye to eye with sports. That's all I know.
I'm so sorry. She makes you feel that way. But yeah, I'll get back to you on. There's so many. The catalog is so.
Are you in that country phase, the pop phase?
It's all of it. I'm back in like Reputation album has been a focus. I'm actually back sort of on Tortured Poets.
Okay.
Which is not the last album, but the album before. Yep. It's all good. So I think it would be a mixtape of Taylor Swift songs.
I have a lot of respect for re-recording all of her own albums.
Yeah.
Something to the effect of she had to own the rights.
By the way, did you see Scooter Braun was like 10 rows behind her at the Knicks game last night? So if you're familiar with that saga, it was seemed purposeful. I liked it.
Wowza.
Yeah.
Crazy. All right. Well, Zach, for those who are interested, and let's say we have some financial advisors that think this is interesting, sounds like something I should learn more about, and that's not T Swift. Maybe they can talk to you about that too, depending on how much time you got.
Yeah, I only talk about both.
How can they get in touch with you, Seeds, the work you're doing?
LinkedIn. Find me on LinkedIn. Always happy to connect. And website is useseeds.com. So come find us there.
Amazing. Awesome. Well, Zach Conway, thank you so much for joining me today on the Biztape. For the listener who pulled up a chair, had us join your commute, your mowing lawn, whatever it was you were doing, thanks for adding us to it. And make sure you hit subscribe. I don't know who I'm talking to next, but I know it's going to be good. And I also know you're just not going to want to miss it. So see you next time.